Moses had a job to do. It was his task and his alone. It was his burden. It was his fire to be in. Just as a quick aside, he had to hold his staff up. And one of my favorite stories with Moses deals with this staff. And it's when he was getting ready to go talk to Pharaoh to free the Egyptians, to free the Israelites from the Egyptians. And Moses said, but God, well, pretty much, why me? I should not go. I am not the one that is qualified for this. Do not send me. And here's the list of reasons why. And God didn't shoot down his reasons. But God asked him, what is in your hand? And Moses said, a staff. Now, he's a shepherd, so of course he would have a staff. And there's nothing wrong with a shepherd having a staff. But for Moses, though, that staff was not just a reminder that he was a shepherd. It was a reminder as to why he was a shepherd in the first place. He was a shepherd because he had killed an Egyptian. He had to run away and leave the life that he knew to go and be a shepherd, to go live out in the wilderness. So that staff was a reminder of, to him, his biggest failure. To him, his biggest regret, his biggest mistake. Everything that was wrong with him, he could see in that staff. But God changed that around. God said, no, your staff is what I have given you to do the job that I have called you to do. I will use this for my glory, and there'll be redemption because of it. So now here we find again Moses and his staff. He has to hold up his arms with his staff in his hand in order to be victorious. So Moses had a job to do. It was his task and his alone. It was his burden to bear. And so as long as he held up his hands in intercession, the Israelites were winning the battle. But if he lowered his hands, then they began to lose. So that was just not a weight that he had on his mind, but it was a literal weight that he felt in his arms. It could not be ignored. It could not be passed off. The battle belonged to Moses. So if we were those who see Moses going through this, we might pray to Christ to give him strength. We do that for each other, right? And if we're Moses, we might ask for others, pray for strength. Pray for me to have strength. I have to do this. I have to do that. But what if Moses is not meant to be strengthened? What if we are meant to be weak? We continue to read in Exodus. Moses' arms soon became so tired he could no longer hold them up. So Aaron and Hur found a stone for him to sit on. Then they stood on each side of Moses, holding up his hands. So they held his hands steady until sunset. As a result, Joshua overwhelmed the army of Amalek in battle. It is a beautiful picture. But how often are we willing to let somebody else hold up our arms? How often are we willing to let people into our lives that intimately that they know that we are weak, that they know that we are struggling? Because if I'm being honest, I struggle with that myself. I struggle with letting other people in. I struggle with admitting that I am overwhelmed or that the weight is just too much for me alone. I have believed the lies that tell me I must do this alone, that this is my battle to fight, that I need to just push through the fire by my own strength. As Christians, though, this is not the life we are called to live. We do have battles that we must fight, but nowhere do we read in the Bible that we must do it alone. Whether we are looking at the Old Testament or the New Testament, we see stories of God's people coming alongside of each other, devoting themselves to each other.